Hi, I'm Brandon Finnigan, Director of Elections here at DDHQ, and welcome back. This week we're going to go ahead and look at the May 17th primaries, and boy are there a lot of them. 5 states are up this week: North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Idaho. Now before we dive in, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and if you enjoy watching these videos, be sure to click that little bell so you're notified as soon as they're released, and give them a like. Let's go ahead and get on to the elections. Now, first up, we'll begin in Kentucky, which closes first at 6 p.m. on the eastern part of the state. There's really not much going on. The biggest races are for the Senate nominations. Republican Rand Paul is going to cruise to that renomination for his third term. On the Democratic side, Charles Booker is expected to emerge as the victor here after a very surprising showing in 2020 where he almost beat eventual nominee Amy McGrath. Now, moving on to North Carolina, which closes 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we should see a heavy dose of early and absentee votes that drop shortly after that. Expect the first tranche of these votes to come in from big counties like Mecklenburg, Durham, Orange, and Wake, as the more rural areas kind of take their sweet time in both the West and the East. A couple of races to watch. First, you got the 2 Senate races. Now, on the Democratic side, former State Supreme Court Justice Sherry Beasley, she's expected to emerge with the nomination pretty easily. Now, the Republican field has settled into a race between Congressman Ted Budd and former Governor Pat McCrory. Now, Budd had been trailing earlier in the campaign prior to receiving the endorsement of former President Donald Trump, but since then, he's grown his lead pretty well in the public polling. Some House races to watch include the 11th District. Freshman Republican Madison Cawthorn faces a challenge from State Senator Chuck Edwards, amongst others. Now, Cawthorn has proved himself no stranger to controversy in his short term in the House, and in the last few weeks has been involved in a growing list of personal, legal, and campaign-related scandals. Edwards has the backing of U.S. Senator Thom Tillis and a super PAC, which has spent significant amounts of money attacking Mr. Cawthorn. Other races I would be watching here would be the open 1st and 13th districts, okay, on both the Republican and Democratic sides. Now, the Democratic incumbent J.K. Butterfield is retiring in his 1st congressional district, so 8 Republicans are competing for the chance to try to flip this seat in his absence, most notably the 2 Sandys, Roberson and Smith. On the Democratic side, Congressman Butterfield has endorsed State Senator Don Davis over fellow Senator Erica Smith, both of whom sought his endorsement. On the 13th district, it's a new one for the Triad area. Voted narrowly for Joe Biden and features competitive primaries on both sides. On the Republican side, 8 candidates are in the running, including Trump-backed Bo Hines and former Congresswoman Renee Elmer. On the Democratic side, 5 are vying for the seat, most notably State Senator Wiley Nickel and former State Senator Sam Searcy. Something to keep in mind about North Carolina races, though, all right? The state uses a runoff system, which is true, but it's not like other states. In Georgia, you got to get to 50%. In Texas, you got to get to 50%. But in North Carolina, thanks to some changes by the legislature in recent years, you only got to get to 30% of the vote. So in a very crowded field, it's very easy to avoid a second round, unlike in a state like, Georgia or neighboring South Carolina, both of whom states' primaries are coming up very shortly after North Carolina. Let's move on to a state that's a personal favorite of mine, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, the prime time fight is going to be for the U.S. Senate nominations, Republican and Democratic. Now, on the Republican side, it's a real brawl. You got former hedge fund manager David McCormick, and then you've got no stranger to daytime television, Dr. Mehmet Oz. And they're leading the field here. Dr. Oz, of course, has Donald Trump's endorsement, with the former president even headlining a rally with Dr. Oz just over a week prior to primary day. While watching this race, the key counties in any Republican primaries are where the voters are. Allegheny is the single biggest contributor in most elections for Republican primaries, dumping in as many Republican votes as about 3/4 of the Philly collar. That collar, though, is still pretty important, making up about 20% of the total Republican vote in recent years. Then, of course, you got York and Lancaster, which are all big, heavy hitters down in the south towards the state of Maryland. And, you watch these combinations of areas and then look at that little stretch from Luzerne and Lackawanna, you're going to get a good sense for who's going to end up winning the nomination overall. Now, if they split the territories, it's going to go in for a really long, late count of the night. Now, on the Democratic side, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman faces Congressman Connor Lamb. This was expected initially to be a close race, but polling shows Fetterman pretty much running away with it at this point. You'll want to watch Philadelphia County. Now, Philly really likes to get its vote out and get its vote out fast. From 8 o'clock on, it's going to be coming in like a bullet, the amount of votes coming out of Philadelphia. If John Fetterman is crushing it in Philadelphia, he's absolutely going to do so in Allegheny. But if he's winning in Philadelphia and he's winning in the collar, he's won the nomination, and you can turn out the lights for that primary race. Now, the congressional races in the Commonwealth aren't quite as exciting. There's just not that many of them right now. In fact, there's only 48 total candidates statewide across both political parties in all of the congressional seats this year. It's the fewest total number of ballot contenders at this level in years. 13 incumbents face no primary challengers. That's a pretty significant and very stark difference from much of the rest of the country. 5 Democrats are vying for the 12th district, which absorbed the old Pittsburgh-centric seat of retiring Congressman Mike Doyle. Congressman Doyle has endorsed Steve Irwin, but he currently trails State Senate Rep. Summer Lee in polling. Polling in from redder eastern suburbs, it has shifted slightly right. There's only one Republican even running here, and whichever Democrat emerges from the primary is probably going to have a good shot of retaining this seat. Now, going on to the 17th district, the other one that's kind of exciting, you got 3 Republicans, Jeremy Schaffer, Jason Killmeyer, Kathy Coder, and then 2 Democrats, Chris DeLuzio and Sean Malloy, who are vying for that seat, right? Incumbent Connor Lamb, of course, he's trying to run for U.S. Senate. He's the one who's challenging John Fetterman instead of deciding to run again for his election here. This district, the 17th, is marginally red, okay, at the presidential level. So Malloy or DeLuzio, whoever advances, is going to be trying to defend a seat, while Schaffer, Killmeyer, or Coder tries really hard to flip it. It's going to be one of the primary targets of the Republican Party as they try to get to that House majority. They're only about 6 seats shy as it is, and that's going to be one of their big targets. So, heading out west, we do have an interesting contest in Idaho, of all places. Not a state that's often watched closely for elections, but the incumbent governors don't always face a challenge from their incumbent lieutenant governor. That's exactly what's going on right now on the GOP side. Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin has been having a kind of combative relationship with Governor Brad Little. Things between the two kind of broke down during COVID. Whenever Little left the state, May of 2021, she became acting governor, would issue an executive order forbidding mask mandates in the state. Idaho never had a statewide mandate, but some counties and cities were able to set their own policies under Little. The governor would rescind those orders as soon as he returned to the state. Now, during another out-of-state trip by Little, McGeachin issued another order forbidding vaccine mandates. And she even ordered the state's National Guard to investigate sending troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. On his return, Little again rescinded those orders. So it's not your typical governor-lieutenant governor relationship going on over here. Now, Little as the incumbent should have an advantage, but McGeachin does have Trump's backing. So this is going to be an interesting race to watch late into the evening on the 17th. Finally, we get to Oregon, whose polls close at 11 p.m. And, Oregon's an entirely mail-in state. Don't expect too much from Oregon on election night. As it being an all-mail-in state, about only half to 2/3 of the vote will probably come in by election night. That's a significant portion still left outstanding. We're going to have to be monitoring in the days and weeks to follow the primary. So, key races to watch include both governorships and the Democratic race in the newly created 6th congressional district. The district mostly consists of the southwestern Portland suburbs. In that particular contrast, the Democratic primary in that race, what's interesting to watch is the amount of money being spent on it right now. One candidate in particular, Carrick Flynn, novice candidate, but between his campaign and the super PACs, $14 million has been spent on him. That's an immense amount of money. Most of it, $10 million, has come from a super PAC connected to a cryptocurrency billionaire, and then $1 million or so has come from a Democratic leadership PAC that's connected to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. That's a large amount of money being spent on a brand new seat in a district for just a single candidate. With all that money, a recent poll shows about 14% support Flynn. And that puts him about 4% behind State Representative Andrea Salinas. So that's definitely kind of a close race there, an unusual one and definitely one worth watching. That's going to do it for our primary preview. Be sure to give us a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel, of course. We'll be back next week, all right, with a preview of the May 24th races in Alabama, which is a big Senate primary, Arkansas, the runoffs in Texas, and the big races of the night in Georgia for governor, secretary of state, and a number of House districts. Until then, I'm Brandon Finnigan, Director of Elections here at Decision Desk HQ. Thank you all for watching.